morning, sir. Sir, you have to unmute yourself, sir.
Yes. Yeah, tell me.
Good morning, sir.
Everything is ready?
Yes, sir. Shall we start? We're waiting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Atufa.
Background, there is a lot of noise.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'll start, sir.
Yeah. Carry on.
Haruki Murakami quoted, "If you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking." Unquote. Good morning to everyone present here. I, Atufa of 2nd BCom C, am humbled with the task of welcoming all of you to this guest lecture, organized by the Department of English, SSMRV College. Sivananda Sarma Memorial RV College runs UG, PG programs and research center is affiliated to Bangalore Central University and recognized by UGC. The college has been accredited by NAC with A grade in January 2017. The college focuses on the holistic development of a student by implementing a unique model named 360-degree plus 1 education for wholeness. Heading in this direction, college has established 29 activity centers like Center for Community Service, Eco Club, Youth Red Cross, Health Club, to name a few. Taking it a step forward, the college often invites prominent personalities from various fields like academicians, political leaders, artists, and so on to enlighten the students and faculty members in their respective field of study.
There is some disturbance, I think.
On this note, first and foremost, I welcome Dr. Pragyan Behra ma'am from Jain University.
David, there is some problem with the connectivity.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, continue.
Yeah. On this note, first
David, internet is, I think there is problem with it.
Yes, sir. Yes. Probably banned.
Yeah. Continue.
On this note, first and foremost, I welcome Dr. Pragyan Behra ma'am from Jain University to our college, and thank you for agreeing to give us this lecture despite your schedule. And we regret not being to facilitate you in person, owing to the current situation. On behalf of all the students and staff of our college, I welcome you, ma'am. I would like to now welcome our adored principal, Dr. S. Anil Kumar sir, to this lecture and taking your time from the crammed schedule and having to run the college so smoothly during these tough times. Thank you and welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to welcome the head of department for English, Mrs. Saujanya Diwan ma'am.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
And the faculty members, Mr. David sir, Mrs. Sindhushri NS ma'am, and Mrs. Harshita URS ma'am, who organized the lecture. Thank you, professors. Last and most certainly not the least, I would like to welcome all my dear students and my fellow batchmates to this lecture. Over to Christina for the welcome of Dr. Pragyan ma'am. Thank you.
Robert Frost once said, I am not a teacher, but an awakener. Good morning, everyone present to the guest lecture. I am Christina D of 2nd BCom E, and it gives me an immense pleasure to be able to welcome Dr. Pragyan Behera ma'am as our guest speaker for this event organized by the English department of our college. Dr. Pragyan ma'am is someone with very few words portraying her knowledge and expertise in the areas of literature and communication in English only through action. Completed her Masters of Philosophy with the topic Pictures, Intelligence, and Coding Theory, a study of language learning. The thesis was focused on children's literature with special focus on picture books. It dealt with the process language acquisition through pictures. Subsequently, Dr. Pragyan completed her PhD in English literature with the topic Constructing Childhoods, Children and Nation in Odia Children's Magazines 1960 to 1990, where the thesis was focused on children's magazines, discussing the broad areas of nation, identity, history, and memory which eventually construct the concept of childhood. Dr. Pragyan also has presented papers, most the paper titled Culture and Superheroes at the Center of Performance Research and Cultural Studies in South Asia International Comics Conference on Representing Comics, Transgression in Media and Culture, Thrissur, Kerala on 21st and 22nd March 2009. The paper titled Memory as Dialect, Split Pasts, Split Cells at International Seminar on Cultures of Memory, Nemo Cultural Practice in South other Asian countries. The English and Foreign Language University, Shillong campus on 7th-9th November 2013. On movies titled Rights and Roots of Passage in Amitabh Ghosh's Gun Island in a virtual seminar titled Summit on 24/20. Ma'am has also attended in on November 2017, Jyotinivas College, Bengaluru. Dr. Pragyan has to her claim a whole host of paper publications, and most notable ones are In Search of an Appropriate Language, a study of Kamala Das's diction in the Journal of the Odisha Association for English Studies, contesting structures of selected posts of Maya Angelou in the Remarkation Journal. Started her teaching career as a guest faculty at Fakir Mohan College in Balasar.
Your voice is breaking.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yeah, it's fine.
Dr. Pragyan ma'am started her teaching career as a guest faculty at Fakir Mohan Autonomous College in Balasar, Odisha in the year 2010. Ma'am shifted to Bangalore and continued to pursue her teaching career at Jain University in the year 2016 as an associate professor and has not looked back since. She is also currently guiding PhD scholars at the same university. We welcome you, ma'am, and I am sure it would be great for us to hear enlightening knowledge. Who will have to share to us a few words about our beloved principal.
It is always easy to take decisions for others, but it is very difficult to take decisions for ourselves. Good morning, one and all present here. I am Suchita from 2nd BCom E. It is both an honor and a privilege to be able to introduce to you our principal, master, our guru and master, Dr. S. Anil Kumar. Dr. S. Anil Kumar Sir is the principal of SSMRB College. He has been a popular teacher among faculty and students. He has an academic experience of over 35 years in the field of commerce and management both at UG and PG level. Dr. Anil Kumar Sir has more than 20 years of research experience. He is a recognized guide for many universities of MPhil and PhD programs. He has produced 5 PhDs and 31 MPhils from various universities. He has been doing various UGC-sponsored projects. Dr. Anil Kumar Sir has published articles in leading national and international conferences. To mention a notable few, Griffith University in Australia, Harvard University in Boston, USA, and so on. Dr. S. Anil Kumar Sir has authored 17 books in the area of financial accounting, corporate accounting, service marketing, entrepreneurship development, production and operation management, and GST. Dr. S. Anil Kumar Sir has been elected Academic Council member of Bangalore University and the adjudicator and member of Research Committee, Christ University. Sir is a member of Tourism Committee of FKCCI Bangalore and the advisory member of BBMP Roshni. He has been chairman and board of studies of Board of Examination of Bangalore University and other universities. The reflection of his hard work and commitment is transformed into many awards such as Dr. S. Anil Kumar Sir has been awarded in recognition of dedicated service as a teacher conferred by His Excellency Dr. Hansraj Bharadwaj, the then Governor of Karnataka, organized by Rotary Bangalore South and Karnataka Civil Defence Corps. He has been awarded for achieving excellence in education from RSST. He has received Dr. Abdul Kalam Gold Medal Award from Global Economic Progress Research Association, New Delhi, for individual achievement and a distinguished service in education and research. He has been an NCC under officer and has won the Best Cadet Award. Dr. S. Anil Kumar has also been awarded a D.Litt by the University of Panama, US. Coming back to his key focus areas within SSMRB, his academic innovations like 360-degree education for wholeness model with 5-dimensional approach, setting up of 29 activity centers are all stronghold strategies which aims to take the SSMRB college to greater heights. The direct impact was the same was our college getting an A grade by NAC for the first time during its third accreditation cycle. It is with proud that we mention our students got many marks and gold medals in the Bangalore University examinations. SSMRB College has recently been ranked 4th among top 5 colleges in India for best value for money in the India Today MRDA Survey 2018. The list is endless, but with due respect to time, let me contain my words about Dr. S. Anil Kumar. Over to Pragya, ma'am.
Yes, David.
Yes, ma'am. You can start.
Yeah. Okay.
David, shall I just formally welcome her?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Suchitra, for introducing me. And once again, I would like to welcome Dr. Pragyan for this particular webinar. And just really, students are really lucky to have you as a resource person for today's most relevant topic, presentation skills for the graduate student, that is BCom, BBA, and BCA students of our college. So, and also appreciate the efforts of the Department of English for taking this initiative in organizing this particular program.
Thank you, sir.
And also the students, I'm seeing just about 95 students are participating in this. I just want to say hi to all the students. How are you? How things are going on during this pandemic?
We are all good, sir.
Yeah. Please take care of your health and health, and also we have been organizing a lot of, conducting classes also. I think be regular to the class, and we may be having the assessments and all those things, and take care of yourselves. Okay, and this is one of the very good initiative from Department of English. Make use of this particular opportunity provided by the department and the college. So once again, I appreciate the initiative of the Department of English of our college. And
Thank you, sir.
I would
Thank you
like
so
to
much.
again welcome the resource person of today's program, Dr. Pragyan Bahera, for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I would like to thank all the teachers and the students of your institutions for inviting me for this talk. I think it's a great privilege to be associated with your institution. And so let's begin with
Yes.
today's talk.
Yes.
Now, I have been asked to speak about the importance of English and good communication. Now, the first thing that comes across our mind when we hear such a topic is what's new about this? Every day we all know that English is a very important language today, and English is also an important language for good communication. So when I thought of speaking about this topic, I thought, what is it that I can say, or has anything changed about English or good communication as such that needs to be focused upon? So I'll be bringing in a few things about what has changed in the importance of English, and how are the other infrastructural ideas around us are changing, which are making English a very important tool of good communication these days. And the fact that every day new reasons regarding the importance of English keep emerging, new reasons for good communication keep emerging, makes this a very relevant topic today. We can talk about it both formally and informally. Now, as a country, India has been exposed to the British, and in that way to English, since the East India Company came to India. But and we also know that English has existed as a very important language since a very long time. But what we might all not be aware of is that emergence of English as an important global language and as a widely accepted form of communication is a very recent phenomenon. English has existed, no doubt, but as a global language, it is very recent. And it is also a very fast-paced phenomenon. So when did English become a global language, and what are the reasons behind English becoming a global language? That would be one of the focus of my talks today. Now, till the 1950s, any idea of English becoming a powerful and globally acknowledged language was a very vague theoretical possibility, because till the 1950s, there were a lot of political upheavals. There was the First World War, the Second World War. People were more focused on building their nation, protecting their countries, and therefore the focus on any kind of artistic or linguistic development was very minimal. Until the 1950s, we all know that British colonialism was, it was extending as well as being questioned. Therefore, the resistance to English had become a very important part of the decolonizing process. So given these things, till the 1950s, there was no chance of English becoming a world language as it is today. Now, after the 1950s, a very radical shift took place. After the Second World War ended, a period of prosperity began. All the nations were settling down into a kind of stability, a kind of peacefulness. Literature started thriving, and many minority groups started writing in English. For example, in America, the Blacks started writing in English. A great load of literature also came from the countries which were once colonized by the English. For example, people in India, people in Africa, Australia, they were also interested in writing in English. Now, one of the reasons why they chose English as their medium of communication instead of their native language is that they wanted to make their ideas and experiences known to the people around the world. English being one of the languages which more people will have access to than their own native language. So, and 1950s were also the time when a lot of experimentation was done with the idea of language itself. For example, there were philosophical debates about what is language? Is language enough for communication? Can meaning be conveyed through language? Is it possible to discover the meaning of anything, any object around us through the use of language? So language itself became a topic of debate, and when it became a topic of debate, the focus was specifically on the nature of English language. This was one of the reasons why English became predominant or came to the foreground because of these debates. By the 1950s, migration had also increased when a lot of people were migrating to America. Now, when these people migrated to America, they left their countries as well as their culture and language behind. In order to communicate in America, they had to adopt the language of America again, which is English. The number of speakers using English as a second language exceeded the number of native speakers by the end of 1960s. These few reasons, added to many more, created a favorable foundation for the growth and widespread use of the English language. And today, after 70 years, English exists as an unavoidable reality. Now, what do we exactly mean when we say that English is a global language? We all know that this language is used widely across the world by different people belonging to different cultures. Many television programs are aired in English, even in countries where English is not the native language or the national language. Many international cultural and political conferences are held in English. Many world bodies choose English as their medium of operation. For example, the UNICEF or the World Health Organization. Many international sports bodies also operate in English. Wherever we travel, whether in our own country or outside it, we can see signs and advertisements in English along with the native language. In restaurants, the menus are in English. In addition to all this, the grand and massive development of the internet has further added to the widespread recognition of English as an important language for communicating information. But the question still remains, are these reasons enough to proclaim that English is a global language? There are many contradictions to this idea as well. Do people all around the world speak English? The answer would definitely be no. There are multiple languages in the world, and within one country like India, we have so many languages and so many dialects. And even English exists as a very strong language in India. Again, do all the countries in the world recognize English as their official language? The answer again is no. All literatures in the world are not published in English only. Further, there is resistance to the usage of English in many countries. Yet, when the term global language comes up, the one language that immediately comes to our mind in this connection is definitely English. Now, it is worthy exploring why. David Crystal is a noted theorist who claims that, I quote, a language achieves a genuinely global status when it develops a special role that is recognized in every country. This definition again raises very problematic questions regarding the nature of special role. What is a special role that a language can play within a country's culture? Special role means that a language is used for various purposes within a country, even when the native language or languages continue to flourish and develop. English has become the official language in many countries and used as a medium of communication in such domains as government, the law courts, the media, and the education system. English has gained a special status even in countries where there are not many native speakers of English or where it is not recognized as a national language, countries like Ghana, Nigeria, India, Singapore, etc. English has also been made a priority in different countries' foreign language teaching. In many countries, either the schools adopt English as the medium of education, or where the medium of instruction is a native language, English language and literature figure as very important subjects. A study reveals that by the end of 2010, around 2 billion people around the world had become fluent and competent in the usage of English language. But what makes English a global language is not the number of people who speak it, rather, the kind of people who speak it. For example, Latin became an international language throughout the Roman Empire. But this was not because the Romans were numerous than the peoples they subjugated. They were simply more powerful. So, one of the reasons why English has achieved a global status today is because it is used as a national language in countries which are economically and politically powerful, like Britain and America. By the beginning of the 19th century, Britain had become the world's leading industrial and trading country. By the end of the century, the population of the USA was larger than that of any of the countries of Western Europe, and its economy was the most productive and the fastest growing in the world. British political imperialism had sent English around the globe during the 19th century, so that it was a language on which the sun never sets. During the 20th century, this world presence was maintained and promoted almost single-handedly through the economic supremacy of the new American superpower. So because English was used in these countries, it became a very important language. Knowing this language gave other less developed countries an access into the world affairs or the developments that were taking place in Britain and America. Knowing English gave other countries a chance to participate in whatever was happening in Britain and America. So this was one of the very important reasons why English had become so very popular around the world today. Next, English has a very cosmopolitan character, because of which, again, it is recognized as a global language, or rather to say that it has sustained itself as a global language. Every year, many non-English words are added to the English dictionary. This flexibility works as an advantage for the language to maintain its global status. Now, it's a widely accepted truth that if a language becomes closed, it doesn't open itself to change with the changing times, it will die off. And it has happened with many Indian languages as well. Contrary to this, because English has been accommodative of various other words from different other languages, it has still survived and still retained its status as a very powerful language. English has borrowed words from over 350 other languages. Now, the next important thing which led to the development or popularization of English as a global language is the development of the ICT, the International Communication and Technology. And the internet has played a very crucial role in the development of English as a powerful language. As the internet has accelerated the pace of globalization, so has the relationship between the English language and the internet. They had an impact on our emerging digital culture. The English language is the universal language of the internet. This has come about because the internet was invented in the English-speaking world, the United States of America to be exact. 80% of the world's electronically stored information is in English. It is the lingua franca of the internet. Most texts accessed through the internet are in English. Most of the major search engines are in English. Computers are English-oriented in that the vocabularies of computing, like Netscape and Java, are in English. 1/4 of the world's population speaks basic English. It is It is the common language of nearly every internationally connected profession, including science, medicine, and air traffic control. The dominant language of music today, again, is English. To be able to speak English is a valued educational qualification. In some countries which have other languages as their first language, like Sweden or Holland, for example, English is mandatory in the workplace. English has assisted and hastened the process of globalization. It is spoken in some form or dialect by 3 times as many non-native speakers as native speakers. Teaching English as a second or foreign language is a billion-dollar industry today. Nearly 1/3 of the world's population are studying or can communicate in English. The reason for the dominance of the English language and the internet is historical. The internet began in the USA, which is the leader user of it, and the USA is an English-speaking nation. 400 million people are native English speakers. For 300 to 500 million, English is a second language in which they are fluent. About 750 million people speak English as a foreign language. Now, the internet also led to many other developments in the usage of English. For example, today there is a development of a new branch of English known as the electronic English. Now, several language researchers have studied the changes that have taken place in written and spoken English from 1990 onwards. And they feel that these changes are taking place because of the internet. Some of the changes that are taking place or which are analyzed through the electronic language are used within formal contexts. For example, researchers have also used various terms to refer to the language used by young people in electronic communication. For example, terms like electronic discourse, electronic language, computer-mediated communication, interactive written discourse, netish, weblish, internet language, cyberspeak, netlink, cyber language, netspeak, etc. Whatever terms have been suggested, they essentially describe a unique variety of English, conventionally referred to now as electronic English. Recently, a high number of corpus studies has been documented. Several researchers have conducted corpus analysis of the linguistic and paralinguistic features of electronic English. Now, a few features, the study that the researchers conducted show that 4 common characteristics of electronic English are very famous. One of them is popularity, creativity, brevity, and words with rich metaphorical meanings. Popularity means the internet language has become widely popular. Sometimes even when we are not sending messages through the internet or sending messages through the phones, the kind of language that we tend to use in our daily conversation also becomes similar to the kind of language that we use when we are using the internet. So this is what they mean by popularity. Second, creativity. Creativity in the sense that sometimes language is used in a very interesting manner, which is different from our daily regular communication. Third feature is brevity. For example, words like LOL and other acronyms that are used in net communication today indicate the fact that brevity has become a very important feature in electronic English. And the last one, metaphorical meaning. Sometimes words are used which there is pun intended in words, or a greater meaning is intended in these words rather than just the literal meaning. Now, this language change includes changes in vocabulary, grammar, pragmatics, style, and other details. Hundreds of words and neologisms have been added to the English lexicon. A common change is the verbification of nouns such as to Google, to text, to email. Now, these words were used as nouns earlier, but now they have been verbalized in the sense that they're used as verbs. Next, there is the emergence of what is known as the internetese. Internetese is a very formal style of written language used in emails or chat room messages that does not follow the normal rules of grammar and does not, for example, use capital letters or punctuations. But this is not taken as a sign of disapproval. For example, in written communication, we tend to follow the strict rules of grammar, but internetese does not follow these strict rules, but it is not considered negative either. Now, given all these features, it is very easy for someone to go on and on about the popularity and importance of English as a global and important language. But we should also keep in mind that there are a few dangers associated with the use of English, or if I may be allowed to use the term, the overuse of English in today's world. English as a global language can lead to the creation of a monolingual linguistic elite class which becomes dismissive of other languages. Sometimes when we are aware or familiar with the English language, we develop a condescending attitude towards the native languages or other foreign languages. This kind of attitude should be discouraged, and people should be more motivated to learn their own languages and other foreign languages as well. We are so smitten by the English language that today we lack the inclination to learn any other foreign language. Good research works, creative works of literature, etc., which are published in other languages and not in English, are often ignored by the international community, which relies heavily on the usage of English. Just as I said right now, because most of the material that is available on the internet is in English, any good piece of work that appears in language other than English is not really accessed or accepted by the netizens. Now, with growing reliance on the global language, we tend to lose touch with our own mother tongue and other native languages around us. It has become a habit in our daily conversation to use English words or phrases and sometimes even complete sentences, even when we are having a conversation in English. We sometimes do not know the native words for many things, and we use the English words instead. So these are some of the risks associated with the use and overuse of English language. Now, even though we consider English as a global language and think that it has a very powerful position in the world economy and the world culture today, there is one simple question which exists. Will there ever be a threat to the position of English as a global language? The answer is yes, though it may not be anytime soon. But still, there are various possibilities. So let us take a look of what these possibilities are, which might threaten the existence of English as a global language. Now, if a global language comes to existence because of power, it can lose its position with the decline of that power too. English, as we had just discussed, became powerful because the most powerful countries in the world are speaking in English, like Britain and America. But if tomorrow, say, the power of these two countries declines, then the power of English as a global language will also decline. And if any non-English speaking country becomes powerful, then the language of that country will also become powerful. Next, if countries become concerned about their native identities and choose to express and assert their identities linguistically, then it might become a threat to the English language. For example, the president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, said in 1974 that the basis of any independent government is a national language, and we cannot just blindly keep following our colonizers. Even Mahatma Gandhi had said that to give the knowledge of English to the Indians is a way of enslaving them again. He said that because he had an experience when he went to a law court. He had to find some documents which were written in his native language and he was not able to read them. So he had to ask someone to translate them into English so that he can understand it. And this kind of a dependency on someone else to translate your own native language for you uh, is seen by Mahatma Gandhi as a kind of slavery. The Kenyan author Ngugi wa Thiong'o chose to reject English as the medium of expression for his work, and he favored to write in his native language, which were Gikuyu and Kiswahili. And in one of his books called Decolonizing the Mind, he says that in the 18th and 19th centuries, Europe stole art treasures from Africa to decorate their houses and museums. In the 20th century, Europe is stealing the treasures of the mind to enrich their language and culture. What he means by this is that people in the third world and the once colonized countries are producing more writings, more cultural works, and more literary works in English rather than in their own languages. Now, this kind of work actually adds up to the pantheon of English literature. It does not add up to the cultural product of that particular country or the pantheon of native literature. Now, if these kind of local resistances where countries become more aware of their native identities, become more aware of their native languages and want to resurrect them, then they become widespread and powerful, then it might pose as a threat to the position of English. Next, there are also economic arguments which might persuade a country to reduce its investment in the English language. For example, if a country sees that its economic future operates more on a regional than on a global level, then it might feel the need to develop one of its regional languages as a lingua franca. So if a country feels that it finds more profits and generating more income and more employment and strengthening its economy by its business in a regional, more on a regional or a national level than on a global level, then it might not want to become a part of the global village or might not want to have trade globally. Rather, it might want to develop its trade within the region, within the nation itself. And in order to facilitate this, the nation might want to establish one of its languages as the lingua franca, the native languages as the lingua franca. Lastly, there is a development of what is known as the new Englishes. Salman Rushdie, a notable fiction writer, comments in one of his essays that the English language had ceased to be the sole possession of the English some time ago. Countries all over the world are using the English language, yet they are using it differently. So the way we use English in India is very different the way English is used in Africa, even though we have been under the influence of British colonization. So we have developed a different genre of English. Other countries similarly have developed a different variety of English. So because these new Englishes are coming into prominence, the standard English which we consider as the global English might not retain its position anymore. Though experimentation in the language is the reason for its survival, it can also become the reason for its decline as well. Now, coming to the second section of the talk, good communication. We all know that English is a very important tool for good communication. But why has good communication gained so much of importance these days? That's one thing that we need to discuss. Throughout the 1990s, the phone company British Telecom used an advertising slogan, "It's good to talk." Now, this slogan, "It's good to talk," is a very cliched sentence, but yet it is so true and so true even till today. We all know that we all talk. We talk with our family members, we talk with our friends, we talk in our workplace. So when we say communication, what do we exactly mean? Aren't we communicating when we are talking? Is there a difference between talking or just talking and communicating? Now, again, a few language theorists have specified that talking is a general social activity, whereas communication requires a knowledge of certain technical skills. Talking is spontaneous, whereas communication is planned. Talking refers only to spoken interaction, whereas communication refers to spoken, written, and visual forms of interaction. When we say talk, we refer only to what we are speaking. But when we say communication, we can communicate through gestures, through our body language, through writing, etc. Now, are there any rules for communication? Because we all know that rules of writing have existed from a very long time. We are taught the rules of writing. These rules have been well established, and we have been taught these rules since our childhood. We all know how to write an essay or a letter. We know the format, we know the grammatical rules, or how to write an answer in the examination. But what are the rules of spoken communication? Are there any rules at all? Nobody teaches these rules, and hardly there is anyone who knows what these rules are, on which good communication is based. But definitely, we know one thing, that good communication is based on certain rules or certain criteria. Since the attitudes and practices of communication have changed, a few questions also emerge to which we can try to find answers. Questions like, how can people be motivated and trained to communicate in contemporary society? What are the linguistic, social, and cultural rules that define good and bad communication? Who creates these rules and for whom? How are these rules reinforced? And most importantly, why is there a need to regulate communication these days? The importance of communication can be comprehended by the kind of printed and visual material that circulates around us these days. Advertisements feature reputed personalities who talk directly to the viewers. Again, there is an emphasis on communication, communicating directly to the viewers to sell a product. There is an increase in the number of TV talk shows and interviews. These shows and interviews, they invite famous personalities or important social and political figures to talk about their experiences and share it with the viewers. So, what is the need for this? Again, they are communicating, but there is a purpose behind this communication. News channels organize debates these days besides just reading out the news. And all these events, all these things indicate the growing importance of communication in today's world. The 21st century is the age of information, thanks to the internet again. And in order to amass information, proper communication is extremely important. Now, another reason for good communication is proper self-expression. The way we express ourselves through communication creates our personality, creates our perception in front of others. Various companies these days create a candidate profile specifying the kind of person they require for a particular job. And if you are able to communicate your aspirations, your abilities, your ambitions properly, then you get an access to the multiple job opportunities around you. Another very important feature of the business enterprises these days is the focus on serving the needs of the customer. This can be seen in the increase in the number of call centers and the increase in the jobs related to this sector. The better the relationship you develop with the customers, the greater is your possibility to sustain yourself in the business sector. Next, good communication also creates empowerment in different ways. It is empowering in the sense that it helps create and maintain good personal and professional relationships. In the professional sphere, a new vision of work has emerged, and good communication has a crucial role to play in it. This new vision of work claims that there is no conflict between the pursuits of productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness on one hand, and the humanization of work on the other. Earlier, it was the belief that in a competitive market, human values usually take a backseat. But this view has changed today, where humanization and competitiveness, they walk together. And this change in the idea has produced a simultaneous change in the idea of communication as well. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. Is anything wrong? Hello?
Madam, you are loud and clear. You can continue, madam. No problem.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, she's muted.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I was making a reference to a French philosopher called named Pierre Bourdieu, who says that he uses the term linguistic capital, and he says that just like any other capital, language has become a kind of capital these days, which produces or helps people in sustaining themselves and generate a lot of work, and it has become a marker of social prestige. In various institutes in America, like MIT, a program was a program had started for maintaining what they called verbal hygiene, because the students on the campus were using language, the internet language, and somehow the authorities did not like it, and therefore they had to introduce a program called Talk is Like You Know Cheapened. Colleges introduced classes to clean up campus mall speak. So what these institutes did was they made asked students to make more and more presentations in the class to hone their speaking abilities. The students were also encouraged to seek guidance from speaking centers, where the counselors taught them how to speak well and how to communicate well. And lastly, I would like to say that good communication is one of the important life skills. Life skills refers to specific abilities which help human beings to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of life. In this approach, communication is treated as a life skill, as an aspect of social competence that is relevant not just to young people's learning and their future employment prospects, but to their general ability to function both inside and outside the school. Okay, so these are the few reasons why good communication is important. Now, lastly, I would like to end the talk with a quote by a anonymous person, rather, who says that you know good communication is important, but we should also remember that we all are different people, and we can make our communication effective only when we make our difference reflect in that communication. Okay, so even when we are following rules of good communication, we should keep in mind what kind of communication we are comfortable with and what kind of communication best suits us, through which we can communicate ourselves. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think
Thank you so much.
I think we can just summarize, if I can, what ma'am said is we all need English, we all require it, but how much moderation should we take it in? Because we're all not native speakers of English.
Yeah.
So how much we have to, we need it, we require it, but not to use it in a way that will hinder your own self-esteem, your own identity, your own language. So that's very good. Thank you so much. And students, if you could quickly ask questions if you have any, or faculties too. You can unmute yourself and ask.
Let them post the questions.
Yeah, I put them, but
Yeah.
they haven't asked. I think Mohit, he's not here. Students, if you could unmute yourself and ask. Okay, do the faculty have any questions? Christina
has a question there.
Yeah, Christina has asked a question. Ma'am, this is to you. Despite being thoroughly acquainted with the significance of this language, why is the hindrance to amplify it on a further scale? You want me to repeat that?
No, I can see the question here, but why do you feel there is an hindrance to amplify it on a further scale? I think the language has been extended to various other places. The language has actually been extended to our personal lives as well. It doesn't stay in the professional sphere alone.
Christina, was that enough? Okay, I think she has issues.
So, hello, madam. This is Harshita, a fellow faculty of Mr. David. I'm very happy. I have to compliment you for giving such a beautiful presentation.
Thank
It
you.
came out really well. Thank you, madam. So, students, like you've all seen, communication is something that has to be done very calm, cool, and composed. You need not change your accent while communicating something. Be the way you are. All of us are not native speakers of English, so we need not acquaint some other accent while speaking this particular language. Use the language, use the way you are comfortable. Do not change your accent. So that was a piece of advice for all my students, and thank you very much for your time, madam. We are indeed delighted to have you today with us. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, everyone.
Ma'am, I think I'll ask you a question. This question was asked to me actually in one of my classes. Why do we need to learn English, and why do we need to learn about the English poets or English writers? Why can't we learn about our own culture, own literatures? I remembered your classes because I had asked the same question.
Okay. And I think Christina has posted
Christina.
another question, which is very similar to your question. So I'll answer them both together.
Sure.
As I said, the development of one language is not dependent on the language itself. It has nothing to do with English grammar or the kind of language it is. It has to do with various contextual issues. Like English is important because it is spoken in America, one of the superpowers. English is important because it is the language of internet. Now, unless and until these contexts change, the use of English will remain as it is. If you don't learn English, you will not have access to the internet, you will not have access to job opportunities, thereby you will not have access to what we understand as development, though the idea of development and progress is questionable, but what we commonly understand as development and progress, we won't have access to it. We cannot participate in it. And I think that is the reason why, in spite of the fact that we want to retain our native culture, we want to learn our native languages or native literature, we cannot do that. There is always a pressure or pull from the other side that this is required, this is demanded, and we have to go with it.
That is very well put, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. If students don't have any other questions, I'd like to end it here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving your time. I'm sure the students took something from this, and I think, ma'am, would you like to say something, HOD?
Not
Thank you,
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Pragya
Yes.
ma'am. Thank you
Yes.
for being here, taking out
Yeah.
time, and it was a wonderful presentation, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hope
Thank you.
students, they are all benefited. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, ma'am.
I was also very excited to
Yeah.
come here, join and participate and speak about one of the very common issues facing, but important
Correct.
issues facing us today. So I
Yeah.
hope the talk was useful, and
Yes, ma'am.
the students will use English as and when, as
Required.
David put it, as and when required, and not take it to your
Too
families. I
fancy.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
David. Thank you for this
Yes, ma'am.
organization. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, can I leave now?
Yeah.
Okay, bye everyone.